It's been 2 years since we locked ourselves in Mournhold at level 1. Feels like it was just yesterday. I want to try again. I like to think I've gotten better at Morrowind, and I also like to think I've gotten better at making videos. Certainly better at enunciating. But if we're going to do this again, we want to do it a little differently. Last time I was rather liberal with pause screen buff cheese, and I relied heavily on potion chugging. I don't want to do that this time. Don't get me wrong though, we're gonna abuse terrain geometry like crazy. So the rules are simple. Once we're in Tribunal content, we can't leave. We can't use any bugs or glitches. We can't exploit pause screen buff cheese, which is where you cast a short duration spell and pause the world via an interface to maintain that buff. And finally, the difficulty has to be set to 100. We do less damage and take more damage, effectively meaning we'll die in a single hit. Because of that, we'll be making a ranged build this time. Berserk will make us nearly perfectly accurate, and Marksman will give us just enough range to kill all the god-rending goblins before they have a chance to reach us. As long as we keep the fights one-on-one, we shouldn't have too much trouble. I mean, how hard could that be? Every other skill choice is mostly utilitarian. Mysticism, simply so we can cast Omsivi Intervention more easily. Conjuration, so we start with a bound dagger, so we can kill the Dark Brotherhood assassin. Mercantile for more gold from vendors. And alchemy, not so we can make super strong potions, but simply so we can level up faster. Attribute optimization won't be nearly as important as overall character levels are. We'll discuss that later. Getting to Mournhold is simple. First, we find a quiet place to wait until a Dark Brotherhood assassin attacks us. We pop Berserk, summon our bound dagger, and carefully carve him to death. With the assassin dead, we report the attack to Apelles Mattius in Ebonheart, who tells us the Brotherhood has hardly any presence on Vvardenfell. They're mostly on the mainland, in Mournhold specifically. Because of the Blight, boats coming to the mainland from Vvardenfell are turned away almost immediately, making getting to the mainland a bit tricky. Ascian Rain, a powerful mage in the Grand Council chambers, arrived in Ebonheart with Duke Vadum Dren himself. She may be able to get us to Morrowind's capital. Travel to Mournhold is restricted, Ascian says, but by telling her we've been targeted by the Dark Brotherhood, she's more than willing to send us off to investigate. Nice to see how lax the restrictions are. I understand why Bethesda didn't do this, but they probably should have restricted Tribunal to characters that have already completed the main quest. It would make more sense narratively. You want to go to the mainland, Nerevarine? Let me help you out, my dude. Also, with the defeat of Dagoth, the whole Corporus Blight thing would be less of an issue. But what's done is done. Now that we're here in the City of Light, the City of Magic, the first thing we gotta do is get some money. Goblin weapons sell for a pretty penny, especially the clubs, but we have no way of killing any of them right now. Instead, we're gonna play matchmaker. In the Great Bazaar, in the trader shop, how specific, is one Sunnel Hlas. He's a bit down, feeling nihilistic as you do, so we ask him about women. His disposition is a bit too low, so first we steal some of his junk upstairs, sell it to the Argonian pawnbroker next door, then bribe Sunnel so he'll actually talk to us about women. In his youth, full of dreams and aspiration, he packed up and went to Vvardenfell with his wife in search of great adventure. But shortly after arriving, his wife contracted the Blight and died. A broken man, Sunnel returned to the mainland and never found love again. But there's a woman, conveniently also in the Great Bazaar, who's looking for a man. Marina Gilnith grew up in a small village south of Morrowind that wanted only the best for her. They arranged a marriage between her and a wealthy nobleman, but he was disgusting, and she couldn't stand it. So she ran away and ended up in Mournhold, convinced she would find the man of her dreams right here in the city. After a bit of back and forth between the two, they both agree to meet up at the Winged Guar for a date. After a few days, we return to Sunnel with our fingers crossed. He says Marina is just who he needed in his life. Wonderful. There's a non-zero chance for this quest to fail, just because dice rolls are engaging. But we didn't fail, so as thanks, he gives us the Bipolar Blade, a goofy sword that both frenzies and calms humanoids struck by it. Niche applications, to be sure, but the Museum of Artifacts will give us 20,000 septims for this baby. We could have saved this artifact for the donation section of the Tribunal main quest, but getting an alternative will serve several purposes. We'll come to that. With this windfall, we pop over to the Craftsman's Hall just next door and buy a couple hundred silver bolts from Bowles and Dowlin, and then we return to the Great Bazaar. Bizarrely, Bowles doesn't sell crossbows, but Sunnel Hlas does. We also buy a handful of mark and recall potions from Ungaleb the Alchemist, as well as some exclusive restore health and fatigue potions, just in case. Now I must address the elephant in the room. Well, maybe it's not an elephant, but it's a little nit that's gnawing at the back of my mind. He's literally me, for real. Albert Nurmark sells scrolls. Restocking scrolls. But they're random. The first time you load into Mournhold is when the game decides what 15 scrolls he'll be carrying. Like all vendors with random stocks, If you save the game before you enter their cell, loading them into existence, and then reload that save, you can re-roll their entire stock. For Albert, you need to do this before entering Mournhold for the first time, so it's kind of inconvenient. I want this run to be consistent, that is, doable regardless of the scrolls he's carrying. So I didn't try to re-roll his stock or anything. This is what he got the first time around, so we're sticking with it. But I am going to avoid some of his scrolls because some just seem too overpowered. Psychic Prison, Paralyze, and Soul Trap for 30 seconds? We'll avoid that one. But Black Death, a little bit of damage over time? That feels more fair. Uth's Hand of Heaven, a little bit of Levitate? Maybe we'll use that a couple times. Although, spoiler, the scrolls that we do use aren't really what makes or breaks the run, so don't worry. I also bought an Adamantium Spear from Bowls and Dowlin. My thinking was to get 10 spear levels so we can go from 85 to 90 endurance at level 2. This would provide us with more points of health each time we level. But, Berserk be damned, it don't matter if you have perfect accuracy if you can't get close enough to the goblin to hit it before it hits you. Goblins are rough. Honestly, the difference between 85 and 90 endurance is minuscule anyway. Over the course of 20 levels, that would be the difference of 10 hit points. Trivial. Marksman's better anyway. Which actually brings up another point about scrolls. The more scrolls we use, the less experience we'll get in weapon skills, which is bad. So I'm actually incentivized not to use scrolls if I can avoid it. Berserk may make skill level irrelevant, but that's only while we're in that 60-second window. If Berserk runs out mid-combat, it would still be nice if we had a little bit of accuracy, right? So, why are we even in the sewers anyway? Well, the Tribunal main quest doesn't start off on a strong foot. Whether you take the optional route of helping King Helseth's retinue of guards, or immediately go to helping the temple, you're going to be sent into the sewers. Act 1 of this DLC is, it was a weird choice. Anyway, because we avoided being killed by the Dark Brotherhood, the Steward of the Hands of Amalexia, Phaedrus Hlur, believes we might be of service to Our Lady. He believes King Helseth, the newly crowned king of Morrowind, is amassing an army of goblins deep within the city's sewers. Phaedrus will reward us if we find the leaders of the goblins, their warchiefs, and kill them. Without their leaders, the goblins are sure to scatter into an unorganized mess. Dangerous, yes, but not terribly useful as an army. Another task, although not a mandatory one, is to kill the goblins' Altmer trainers. If we do, there's a greater reward in it for us. We might take them up on that, but depending on how brutal getting to the trainers is, we probably won't. The first half of our adventure through these caves is largely uneventful. The shield goblins are strong, but they're not durable, so they die after about 4 or 5 hits from our crossbow. Well, from the bolts that come out of the cross, you know what I mean. The Durzogs are a different story since they can catch up to us if we don't hop backwards like a confused cricket, or a totally sensible cricket who's speedrunning Super Mario 64. The difficulty arises when we encounter the Goblin Bruisers. They're immune to normal weapons for some reason, so we must use silver bolts. I had been using bone mold up until this point because they're slightly cheaper. Secondly, they have healing potions that they drink partway through combat. And finally, they come with a passive healing effect because why not? To get the most damage per second possible, we'll drop a mark in the sewers, Civvy out, and repair our gear while selling some of the goblin weapons. Damage scales linearly with weapon condition, and movement speed scales with overall carry weight. If we want to maximize our damage, and maximize our runawayableness, we should probably swing by the city every now and then to resupply and drop off loot. Some of the goblins have magic too. Funny enough is that's probably their safest attack. For whatever reason, magic damage isn't affected by Morrowind's difficulty slider. So, yeah, it's still strong, because we're level 1, and this is a Morrowind goblin, but it's not as strong as it could be. It's not an immediate death sentence. The Armory Ruins section of the sewers is where I predicted we would have the most trouble. Behind this door are 2 goblins and a Durzog, and even with flawless movement, we won't be able to kill them in a single berserk phase. So what do? That's right, run past them and hope it doesn't end up being a bigger problem. More goblins and Durzogs, but I know there's a door right down that corridor that leads to the Tears of Amun-She. We just gotta get to it. But on the other side are 2 more goblins, and the warchiefs are in this cell. So we gotta kill these guys if we want to kill the warchiefs. So we're gonna have to kill everything in the Armory Ruins. Remember how I said we'd be taking advantage of the terrain? If safe spotting is good enough for fresh OSRS players to complete the Grand Tree quest with Firestrike, then it's good enough for me. The goblos we ran past made it over the terrain. Alright, everything is dead. We can now tackle the Tears of Amen-Che, after making a pit stop back in town. Gonna buy some silver darts. The damage is low, but you can throw them fast and stun lock enemies. Oh, if only there were darts that did damage comparable to a Daedric bow. Ah, what a pipe dream. Even if it was one goblin... Oh, cool, a third asshole for no reason. Screw it, let's just run. There's a pool up ahead, maybe they'll get stuck in it. Didn't even slow him down. Open, damn it! Boy, am I exhausted. Let me just take a quick nap while a swarm of goblins approach. Oh, well, it'll take some time, but this could work. That's 2 down. Oh, no, you stay away. Don't... Okay, that didn't work out too well, but I think there's something there. Let's try again. Can I just pretend I'm a goblin? I'm an orc. Kindred spirits. Malakath. I don't know. Move, you fucking goblin! What a pain in the ass. Wait. Can the bruisers not open the doors? Oh, they're stupider than velociraptors. We can't rest because they're still chasing us, but if those goblins stay put, we can just kill the warchiefs and then book it. Huh? What killed me? Oh, hello. Seems the goblins can work the door. Just takes them a bit to figure it out. Damn it, sneaky goblins. We're gonna have to kill them now. Somehow. Is it possible to let one through at a time? Maybe. I think it's the one with the shield. Their hands are more dexterous, allowing them to pick up weapons and manipulate doorknobs, but I can't be sure. We should still kill them all. To expedite the process, scrolls. The Scroll of Black Death does 5 to 15 points of health damage for 10 seconds on touch. Risky since we have to get within touching range of the goblins, and it's not that much damage overall, but it's more than 0, and that's all that matters. So the warchiefs. Surprisingly easy to kill. Hey, level 3. Cool. Priorities are strength, speed, and agility. Mostly strength. Maybe luck will see some love this run. The second warchief, the one down the right tunnel, is a bit trickier because he has a pet Durzog with him, and it's much stronger than all the other Durzogs we've fought so far. But we only have to kill the warchief. If we're careful, we can lure the warchief into the tunnel and kill him without the Durzog noticing. Good. Now run away. But do I want that goblin buckler? Maybe. Loop back around, grab the key. Is it still? Yup, it's still right up my ass. Loop around again, loot the chest, civvy teleport. Oh boy. Damn. Vedris, job's done. Warchiefs are dead. The trainers, I don't care. You figure it out. 5,000 septims? Thanks. I'll treasure it always. Also, we're never going to use that shield. It drains our speed and personality, all for 1 point of health restoration per second. Pointless. Absolutely pointless. Shouldn't have wasted the time. I think we're out of the woods. The hardest part of the main quest is behind us, but this wouldn't be the case if not for my meticulous planning, evidenced by how we deal with this next quest. Gavish Drin wants us to escort Ervil Dulney to the Shrine of the Dead, where the priest will cleanse its corruption. We'll find it deep within the ruins of Old Mournhold, past the countless undead hordes emanating from the shrine itself. We must protect the priest and bring him to this shrine, fighting through all the enemies along the way. Or we could just let him die. We lose out on the reward, but that's just a spear. A decent spear, to be fair, but I don't care about that spear. Having successfully failed to protect that priest, we return to Fedrushlur, and like a double-decker outhouse, he gives us duties from above. Amalexia wants Barrelzar's maze band, and we'll find it somewhere in the abandoned crypts beneath the city, back down into the sewers. Rather than goblins, we've got liches. You would think the profane magics fueling a lich would make them stronger than dumb gobos, but you'd be wrong. They're actually pretty simple. Their magic has no AoE, so it's pretty easy to dodge, and they aren't very evasive, so even if we aren't berserking, we still hit them quite reliably. They just have a lot of health. Even Barrelzar is a pushover. He keeps casting his blind/paralyze spell, but that's easy to dodge, and once he runs out of magicka, he runs into melee with his Daedric Claymore, but we can just abuse his pathfinding and walk down a slight incline, and now he's confused. With the band now in our possession, we get topside and do the creeper shuffle with Bowls and Dallin. To get the most value out of that claymore, we need to buy items roughly equal to the cost of the claymore, which we can then sell back in 8k increments, because we have to wait 24 hours for his gold to resupply. We do this by buying his repair hammers and then selling them back to him, thereby updating his maximum restock amount. Do this over and over again until he's carrying thousands of hammers. We buy nearly 5,000 hammers for the small price of 1 claymore from hell. Then we go through the tedious process of selling a few hundred hammers at a time, waiting 24 hours, then selling a few hundred again, and repeat. Once all is said and done, we've got ourselves a nice 89k. What do we need this for? You'll see. It's not overkill at all. Returning the ring to Gavish Drin grants us the honor of meeting Lady Amalexia herself. Look at her. Look at the light of her mercy. Bathe in it. She is baked. This is the end of Act 1, I would argue. Act 2 begins 24 hours after handing over the ring. There's a disturbance at the Plaza Brindisi Dorum. A swarm of robo-raptors and mechanical scorpion thingies are attacking Lego City. We don't provide much help to the city's defense, what with how many guards there are, but we managed to shoot a couple of the fabricants at least, so we're helping. It seems these creatures crawled out of this newly formed hole. Descending into the hole, we discover a massive Dwemer ruin that's currently hosting an all-out brawl between fabricants and automatons. You'd think the fabricants, being robotic, would be of Dwemer make, so why are they so hostile with one another? Where could the fabricants have come from? Surely Amalexia and her hands can get to the bottom of this. For now, she would like us to investigate a cult that's cropped up following the attack on the city. Cults form fast in a world with living gods, I suppose. And if the Elder Scrolls Online is any indication, you can't go one province over without running into a new one. The End of Times cult, quite the novel name for a cult, is led by a young Dunmer named Ino Romari. Little is known about the cult, but recently several of their members were found dead. Speaking to the sister of one of the dead cultists, reveals that he may have participated in a kind of ritualistic suicide. Oh no, I said the dreaded S word a single time. Will I be demonetized? No, because this isn't TikTok. I don't know what's more annoying. People self-censoring themselves by using dumb euphemisms like unalive, or people silencing the words in the edit. Oh no, what's more annoying is people cursing and censoring the curses. Just don't fucking curse, and you don't gotta worry about it. Ino Romari's cult believes the end times are upon us, and soon the gates of oblivion will open and flood Mundus with hellish forces. Only the ancestors who have left the world will remain. Sounds ridiculous. The dragonfires have been lit for hundreds of years, and Sothasil's Cold Harbor Compact is pretty airtight. What, are the dragonfires gonna go out for some reason and there's not gonna be an emperor to relight them, and Sothasil's just gonna disappear and his compact will mean nothing anymore? That's silly. To demonstrate the totally not wavering power of the tribunal, Amalexia commands us to descend into the Dwemer ruin uncovered by the Fabricant attack and activate the Karstang's Basharn. Deep within Bamzam Shend is a piece of ancient Dwemer tech that can change the very weather. Amalexia would see ash storms fall upon the city to show the people what it means to doubt her power. Personally, I think the Tribunal relies too heavily on Dwemer tech, but they wouldn't be gods without it, so down into the ruins we go. But before that, we want to get some levels. There's a specific enemy that won't spawn in the ruins unless we're at least level 10. So for fast levels, we visit the Wingwar Inn and buy a ton of bread and crab meat from Ratesh. With these ingredients, we make thousands of Restore Fatigue potions. Not to drink, but just because it's easy XP. It doesn't take too long to get 100 alchemy, and by doing this, we're able to level up 9 times, getting us to level 13. Although we didn't optimize our attributes in any shape or form, this is still a net positive. Not only will that enemy start to spawn, and you'll understand why that's important soon enough, but also, we now have 159 points of health. Physical attacks are still liable to kill us in one shot, but against magic, we're a bit more resilient. Onward to Bamzam Shend. See, this place is much more interesting than the sewers. I don't know if they could have started Act 1 with Bamzam Shend, but I think Tribunal would have been better received if it did. So these Centurion archers are related to the enemy that spawns at level 10. These ones here with the lightning are always here when you first enter Bamzam Shend, and they don't respawn, as far as I can tell. But the darts they're carrying are a hint of what's to come. We'll hold on to these shock darts for the time being because we'll need them later. The archers that do respawn also carry dwarven darts, but these ones aren't enchanted. But that's fine because the damage range on these things is stupid. 40 to 100 points. The steel crossbow does at most 20 damage, plus like 3 damage from the bolt. The low end of the dart is almost double the steel crossbow. But because the darts are so strong, if the Centurion hits us, we're dead. And they've got 300 points of health. So they're pretty tanky. They're probably the strongest things in this whole place. But they drop around 10 darts at a time, which means it is more than worth it to farm these guys. These darts are what's going to make the rest of this run possible. But before doing any farming, we want to grab the Dwemer crossbow from the Hall of Winds. It's not as strong as the darts, but I want to save the darts for later. It's still a worthwhile upgrade though, because it is 50% stronger than the steel crossbow. The path down to the Karstang's Basharn, the Weather Witch, is littered with Dwemer robots, many of which are the tanky archers, but we're more than happy to reap the rewards from their decommissioning. We grab the key from this workshop and use it to unlock the door keeping us out of the Satchel Charge storage room. We need 2, and this chest just so happens to have 2. The first charge blows up the debris blocking the way into the Passage of the Walker, and the second charge blows up the debris blocking the way into Nuranun Dur. The weather machine is actually down the other path, but there's something in Nuranun Dur we need to grab. Might as well get it since we're in the area. Within the citadel of Mindrur, deep within the ruins of Nuranun Dur, there waits the Dremora Lord Kashti Drur and his vile crew of filthy cur. There's a platform high above the entrance that leads to the Wailing Delve. This is where those Uth's Hand of Heaven scrolls come in. At the bottom of the Wailing Delve, past the abandoned Daedric Cuirass and singular Daedric Pauldron, is the Pyroil Tar. Why is it here? I don't know, but we're eventually going to need it for the main quest. Normally you would kill the Dremora Lord for his. Could we kill Kashti Drur, that Dremora Lord in Nuranun Dur, in his citadel of Mindrur? Sure, I don't think he'd be any tougher than all those goblins, but I don't want to. Besides, the first time we did this challenge, we didn't even mention the Wailing Delve, as far as I remember. So this approach is novel. Yeah, that's it. It's for novelty. Back in Bamzam Shend, we fight through more automatons, wade through ankle-deep water, and arrive at the Weather Witch. Slot the Coherer, pull the lever, return to the surface, and ta-da! Ash storms, behold Amalexia's mercy. To accompany this mercy, Amalexia would now have us extend her gracious blessing to one of her hands, Salus Valor. He's abandoned his station and has begun spreading untruths about Our Lady. We are to bring him peace by killing him. This is what we save those enchanted Dwemer darts for. Things are going to be a bit flashy in a moment, so keep that in mind. Damn it! You good? Good. He's got darts of his own. Her darts, that is. Her darts are pretty powerful, and we're lucky he didn't use any. We'll save these for yet another encounter. Regarding his armor, we'll take the gauntlets, boots, and helmet. 5 attack, 5 strength, 5 agility, and 5% reflect. And since we're outside the Craftsman's Hall, We'll sell what we can to Bowles and Dallin. Albert Narmark has a Flame Eater robe in stock. Resist fire and spell absorption 10 seconds each. We might need that. He restocks items? Can I double up on the buffs?
I must say, I find you the most interesting right now.
Yup. We'll take 3. Spell absorption doesn't stack additively, but we'll eventually need some means of mitigating absurd spell damage. So this is better than my initial plan, which was gritting my teeth and hoping for the best. It's at this point in the main quest that Almalexia reveals that she believes we're the reincarnation of her dead husband, Indoril Nerevar. Girl, you didn't need to do all this. If you're interested, just ask. The worst I could say is no. To take our place at her side, we need to reforge Nerevar's ancient blade, Trueflame. There are 2 pieces of the blade we need to find, with the third gifted to us by Almalexia herself. One piece comes from the Museum of Artifacts at the cost of donating 2 artifacts, and the other piece is in the hands of Karod, King Helseth's champion. We'll start with the latter. We meet King Helseth, and he confides that he was the one responsible for the Dark Brotherhood hit placed on us. His sources believed we were a threat to the monarchy, and he acted on that information. You see, it's dangerous to be king, and it's even more dangerous to be a new king, especially following the untimely death of the previous king, that King Helseth had nothing to do with. Helseth believes there's a plot brewing against him and his family. He sends us to his informant in the Winged Guar Inn, who, after a bit of bribery, is willing to discuss these sensitive matters. Bakro Sham believes there is a plot, not against the king, but against Queen Mother Baranzaya. Before returning to Helseth with this information, we're going to put all that money we made to use. Bakro Sham is the only NPC in Mournhold who offers training: sneak, acrobatics, and light armor. Because we took acrobatics as a major skill, by buying training, we can get several character levels really quickly, which means more health and more strength. The reason we waited so long to do this is because this NPC doesn't show up until you start this quest. Oh, by the way, I installed a mod that reopens the training menu each time you train, so you don't have to chase the NPC around the room. Oh, does that make the challenge easier? Oh no, I've saved 5 minutes. He trains us up to 86 acrobatics, the highest he's able to teach, and that gets us to level 19 with 220 health and 94 strength. After bringing this intel back to King Helseth, he asks us to stake out his mother's chambers and await the attackers. And sure enough, a trio of Dark Brotherhood assassins arrive. Because this room is so small, and it's hard to get distance between us and the assassins, we'll use her darts to deal with them. 5 points of damage for each element for 5 seconds in a 1-foot area. There we go. As thanks, Helseth gives us a collar, perhaps symbolizing that he wishes us to be his attack dog. Although we've proven ourselves to be strong and loyal, Helseth would like us to prove ourselves to him personally by fighting his champion, Karod. We're going to use some Dwarven darts for this fight. Karod is fast, so we want the fight over as soon as possible.
Let the duel begin.
With Karod defeated, Helseth grants us his father's ceremonial dagger, the Dagger of Simicus, and Karod, finally tasting defeat in battle, relinquishes the blade his father had given him as a child, an odd Dwemer weapon, a piece of Trueflame. That's 2 of 3. Now the final piece. The Dagger of Simicus is one of the artifacts we'll be donating to the museum. But what's the other one? Well, we have 2 options. The Mace of Fleuring and the Robes of the Lich. The bipolar blade could have also been an option had we not sold it to the museum. Gedner Relvel is a powerful lich that I don't feel like fighting, so we're going to go with the Mace of Fleuring. Also, there's more than just the mace waiting for us at the end of this quest. Elena Sadri has become a touch delusional, believing everyone is trying to get it, whatever it is. Alvin Laris says she's been seen talking to Albert Narmark, so he may have some leads. What's critical is that we place a mark here within the building. After we talk to Albert, the door to this place will be locked with a level 90 lock. Without recall, we would have no way of getting through it, as far as I'm aware. Albert says she came to him to ask about some strange devices she had. He'd assumed she had a passing interest in enchanting, so he didn't suspect anything malicious when she invited him over to see her collection of strange devices. When he investigated one of them, it gave him a powerful shock, and Galena was upset that it wasn't stronger, so he wants nothing to do with her. Upon returning to the manor, we find a dead Ordinator and a trapdoor leading into the Mournhold sewers. You just can't get away from them. Ah, another dead body, excellent. We turn this valve, raise the water levels, swim through one trapdoor, swim through a second trapdoor, and then take a moment to contemplate this gauntlet of booby traps. This is why we bought all those robes. Okay, we didn't absorb it, but it didn't kill us. Easy. At the end of the gauntlet waits Goldshire Sadri, now kitted out in full glass armor, with a Daedric longbow as a weapon, and a quiver of nasty, poisonous, paralyzing arrows, with a 20-foot range. Our approach must be surgical.
You will suffer greatly.
Oh. Dwemer darts are very strong. So she's carrying the Mace of Slurring, a mace that drains speechcraft by 10 to 20 points on strike. I swear all these tribunal artifacts exist solely as museum fodder. Speaking of which, we return to the God's Reach, donate the Mace of Slurring and the Dagger of Simicus to Tarasa Aram, and receive the Dwemer battle shield. The smith next door, Yagag Grogaluk, pries the third piece of True Flame out of the shield and agrees to reforge the blade anew. 2 days later, and the blade is ready. But it's not enchanted. A blade like this needs Dwemer enchantments. Conveniently, the ghost of Radix Stungenthums, who lived in the ruins beneath Mournhold, just so happens to reappear as soon as we need him, but in specter form. If we bring him a bottle of pyroyl tar, he'll rekindle True Flame's True Flames. Oh my, what do I have here in my pocket? Because we're in the final stretch of the main quest, this will be the last time we visit Bamzam Shend, so before returning to Almalexia with the reforged blade, we're gonna farm a few dozen more darts. The Daedric bow we got from Goldshire Sadri will help with this. The easiest way to get respawning enemies to respawn is by disposing of their corpse, leaving the cell, and then returning. You could also leave the cell for 3 days, but this is quicker. Usually the Centurions or Spiders will spawn in place of the Archers, just the nature of randomized lists, but both of those enemies are actually weaker than the Archers, so it's not a big deal. Besides, it's good training. Now that we have a bit more than a gross amount of darts, 149 to be specific, 5 more than a gross, we make preparation for the final chapter of the main quest by buying potions from Ungaleb. I don't think we'll need 30 health and fatigue potions, but I'd rather be over-prepared. What I don't want to do, though, is potion chug. Ideally, all of our prep work thus far will make chugging unnecessary. With the blade reforged and back in the hands of the soul of Indral Nerevar, Almalexia is now ready to reveal the final obstacle that stands in our way. Sotha Sil. It was he, a fellow member of the Tribunal, that set those fabricants upon Mournhold. His seclusion in his Clockwork City has only driven him to madness. He is no longer the man Almalexia once knew. He must be stopped. The Clockwork City is full of fabricants, puzzles, and traps, enough to give Black Mesa a run for its money. Most of the enemies can be avoided, but we need to collect a dozen or so bottles of the Verminous Fabricant Elixir because of this room. The easiest way to beat the spinning saw blades to the door on the catwalk is by boosting our speed with these potions, and you just outrun it. I guess if you had high enough acrobatics or a jump spell, you could probably reach the door with a standing jump. But levitation magic doesn't work in here, so don't think you can outsmart it. You need 100 strength to push down this plunger, but the hulking fabricants drop an elixir that boosts strength, so you could farm them if you're a weak little wizard with weak little wizard arms. The penultimate fight is against the Imperfect, a hulking automaton which has a magic attack that thankfully cannot one-shot us. The spell comes with a weakness to shock effect, but by the time it recasts the spell, the debuff has already worn off. An odd design choice, Sotha Sil. I was trying to be conservative with the darts, but halfway through the fight I got impatient and just started chucking them. Who cares? We got over 100. Well, Sotha Sil's already dead. I guess our job here is done. Whoever could it be behind that mask?
Nerevarine. Here it ends. This Clockwork City was to be your death. You were to be my greatest martyr, the heroic Nerevarine, sacrificing all to protect Morrowind from the mad Sotha Sil. But you live. You live.
Fear not. I will tell the tale myself when this is done. I will tell my people how with your dying breath you proclaimed your devotion to me, the one true God. Your death will end this prophecy and unite my people again under one God, one faith, one rule by my divine law. The puppet king will lay down his arms and bow to my will. Those who do not yield will be destroyed. The mazed band has allowed me to travel to this place. Here I slew Sothasil. Here I summoned the fabricants to attack Mournhold. I will be the savior of my people. I alone will be their salvation. None may stand in my way. Not you, and certainly not Vivek. He is a poet, a fool. I will deal with him when I have finished with you. And Sothasil. He always thought himself our better, shunning us, locking himself in his hole. He spoke not a word as he died, not a whisper. Even in death he mocked me with his silence. But I think you will scream, mortal. For now you face the one true God.
Almalexia has 3,000 points of health, resists frost, shock, and magicka by 50 points, poison, fire, paralysis, and normal weapons by 100 points, and she has a spell that hits just about the entire room with 40 points of absorb health, 100 points of fire damage, and 75 points of weakness to fire. Needless to say, she's pretty tough. Also, the mazed band lets her summon fabricants, which I feel isn't vanilla behavior. But if we're careful with positioning, and time our attacks just right, we should... Oh, she's dead. Huh. We use the mazed band to teleport back to Mournhold, where we get a hug from Lady Azura. Well, that was fun to revisit. Once you get past the goblins, the Tribunal expansion is actually pretty neat.